Today I'm going to talk you through what I've already edited for my film opening. It's not finished yet because from feedback from peers and my teacher, I've decided that it would be best to put in another scene. Me and my group have decided that would be best because um, I think it'd be good to introduce some dialogue earlier on and just create a bit more tension around the whole murder scene in this opening. Um, so this is what I recorded it on. I have used iMovie because this is something I'm comfortable with, and I think it's good for doing everything that I wanted to do with this film opening. I've kind of been the main editor on this, but I've had input from the rest of my group on what we wanted to kind of do with it. So I'll just kind of click through the different parts, different clips from it, and see what I've done with each of them. Actually, at the beginning, as you can probably see here, um, I what is the word I'm looking for? I put in a screen kind of thing of a BBFC classification logo board thing that I found online because I thought this would be interesting to write about later because obviously this is a big part of the whole making and opening. But I've actually realized that 15 wasn't what we were initially thinking for this film, actually in 18, so I'll probably go back and change that. And like this, just as something to write about, kind of, and how the distribution will be for this film, I put in a little Lionsgate thing and then gone on to add a Morton Productions thing, which is our film company. And I added some audio in. I think all the audio I've added in was later because I just wanted to make it a bit more better to listen to. And I added in, what is this? I can't quite remember. I think this is some sort of static sound, as you can hear, um, which is something I got from the iMovie sound effects library because this was really useful here because it meant I could get a lot of sounds and stuff very easily because it's quite hard to find sounds um, online, to be honest. And yeah, and then I added this as an overlay that kind of faded in. So onto like the actual bit, I have done. I took a lot of the original things and cut them quite short to kind of add to the tension in this first bit. And actually here, this section, I made it so, well, you can probably see the timings go from 1.5, 1.4, and they decrease like that to create really a really panicky section because it gets faster and faster because we wanted to create a sense of panic around the murderer themselves. Like, are they panicked about what they've just done, or is this something easy for them to really create an enigma around the character? And also here, the sound, I'll play a bit for you. As you can see, this is the sound of someone squelching blood, which is rather disturbing, but was what we were looking for. And actually, this is something we filmed a little bit extra later because we wanted to really direct this part of it. So if I just played the sound that's already on it, it's literally just our group shouting at Freya, the actress, of what to do. So we later recorded some sound for it, and then I just dubbed that in. So here I will play you this part. So when the knife drops there, that's actually something we recorded later, but I've just timed it so it fits and carried the rest of it on, and it fits really well, which was good. Um, and then that sound fades out, and we move on to the next part, which I've done here. And I filmed, in this section, I think, let's just have a look. Oh, yeah, I turned the saturation down and the warmth down a bit because I wanted to make it a bit dark and scarier, which I think worked well. And I think I've done that quite similarly with these ones. Oh, actually, I've turned the saturation up on these because I thought we didn't really have enough footage of the blood, and I went to remake the blood, but it was very hard to make the same color. So in editing, I changed it, and I think it's worked quite well. Really, I don't think you would have been able to tell. But on this section, the audio we added in was of Freya whistling, and we recorded that in the same room. We filmed this section um, just because it would work well. So I'll just play a bit of that. And then there, as you can hear, I've cut in really quickly the this just still of the um, bloody sink. Now I'm not 100% sure we're going to keep this in. I think it might work better to maybe put in a clip, a really quick flash of the body, perhaps, or a scar on the body. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm not sure this works that well. But it does create a jump scare, which is good because for the sound, I used a skidding sound that is actually on the iMovie sound effects also, and sped it up just to create a really screechy sound effect because it installs fear kind of into the audience as a jump scare. Because I looked online and I couldn't find anything that wasn't copyrighted that would have done the same thing, but I don't think you realize it's a skid effect and it just sounds kind of unworldly, as you can hear. So like before, I have decreased the timings of the cuts in between, and I've kept the cut to the sink at zero point 0.2 each time because it just flashes up, which is a nice jump scare. But this just adds more panic again. And then here it just fades to a steady pan, which is a nice contrast, and the whistle carries on, which I like. It kind of adds a little calm between the storm, if you know what I mean. And this section here is where we're hoping to put in the new scene. So I'll probably do another video like this when we put that in and see how I've edited all that together. So this section, it was just going to cut straight to the record player, but it just seemed a bit too stilted. So I've added in just a black screen for 1.6 seconds, a tiny bit random, but it just seems to work, and added in, again from the sound effects, this sound of an actual record player starting, the little kind of staticky sound it makes before it starts, which works really well to introduce the sound effect of of the record player, although it's not an actual record player sound, and it kind of just breaks it up, and the black is nice to kind of break it up, I think. And then it goes on into the kind of title section, although we haven't got that many titles, which is something we may need to add into the scene that we're going to put previously. But also, I was unable to get a title spinning around the record player that I'd hoped to do because I just couldn't find a way of doing it. I've looked and there's nothing I can really find, but I think it's good to introduce a record player, to introduce the time and the um, so the time of when this is set, and also um, the music. It kind of works. And for this, I've kept everything the same for color correction because the lighting in there was already quite bright and warm, which worked well to change the mood. And no, I haven't cropped it. I think it says I have, but I haven't. This one, I think I may have changed the color. Yes, I've brought everything up because this obviously was a bit duller, and I wanted to make everything bright to add some good contrast. And the song Happy Together continues throughout this whole section because I wanted to really change the mood of this. And it's a song that came out, I believe, in the 1960s, so it's pre when this is set, but still works with the time period. And then here I've added in the text as overlays, which I did on keynotes because it meant I could add the text exactly where I wanted it to go, and I was able to add the typewriter effect. And I've also added a typewriter sound effect, which is also from the sound effects section on here because well, when I discussing this with my teacher, he thought that it was quite distracting, which I do agree with. But then I when thinking about putting in this new scene, we were going to put in a little note from the murderer, which would be written in the typewriter font, as if it was from an actual typewriter, and that can kind of be an icon of the murderer. And so I'm going to keep in the typewriter sound effect because it's going to create a kind of, well, not an actual sound bridge, but it will link the two, which I think would be quite nice and immediately add significance to the typewriter in the film, which would be good to engage the audience. So I'm going to actually keep that in. So although it is distracting, it aids the narrative, so it's not a big deal. So as you can see, that's how it kind of goes in. And these cuts are all kind of introducing the setting, and here we've got a hand grabbing this, which kind of just gives a sense of normality. And again, I've added in the text, and this time it's kind of sits in the bowl, which is quite nice. It's just like the text are bobbing up around the home. I don't know, did I color correct this? No, this one, it was something else that I thought was nice and warm already. Also, this one was something. This is actually something that we're going to have to shoot again because I was on the camera here and I was in the reflection, which obviously breaks the verisimilitude of the whole film. So that's something we're going to have to change. But I like the way that the text comes up here. I think it's a nice place for the text to fall. So I think we'll keep it very similar, but find a way of shooting it so that you can't see a reflection, obviously. I don't know, did I color correct that? No, no. And I had to actually add this in as a freeze frame, which wasn't ideal because it looks quite stilted. So again, that's another reason why that's going to have to be reshot. And then going, oh yeah, I've cut to this, which has no um, color correction, but I've had to use the stabilizer because I was using my tripod, but to move it, there is a little handle and it can get quite jolty, and that's what happened here. But the stabilizing feature on here has really helped, and you can't tell anymore, which is good. And again, I've added the text. I like the way it just appears in gaps. I think it looks nice. And the text I've chosen is called GIST. This is one that's free to use. I have checked on, there's a website called, I think, 1,000 free copyright fonts, and this one was on, because a lot of them are written as free, or you can pay for the commercial rights, or they're just for personal use, but this one was just free, which is very good because I think it fits with the whole 70s vibe. Actually, it's just kind of I don't know, kind of a romantic font in a way, which is nice to contrast. I like the way it looks. I think it works well. And then we've gone for a pan. I don't know, have I changed this one? I've slightly turned up the saturation and the warmth again, just because I wanted to create the warmth and the contrast. And we've panned up here, and this isn't to do with actual editing, but on my camera there is it works. It focuses on, you can change the focusing features, and this was focused on these bits. Oh, I'll try and stop it. These bits here, and then when I moved up, it was out of focus. But then when I tapped the screen, I'll try and show it, her face became in focus, which added a nice bit of camera work, I think. And then we cut from this angle to this angle just to add a bit of differentiation and kind of make it a bit more natural. But also, I really like this shot. Emma from our group was the cinematographer, and not me, Emma Flintoft, and she made this shot so it kind of looked down, which I think is really effective because it kind of makes it look like she's the victim, but obviously she's not the victim. So it really creates a bit of a red herring, which I think works really well. And this shot is nice to show the background, which is a bit creepy and weird, but is kind of good for the time setting. But at the same time, although it's creepy in a way, it does look like like a girl's bedroom and something quite innocent. So it does work. And then yeah, we've cut back to here, and I've turned up the warmth and stuff again because of how that wanted to go. And I've just carried that on, and we've cut between these two quite a bit just to add a bit of differentiation and make it a bit more natural, because in film it is quite natural to change the angle, which is just Hollywood realism kind of thing. So yeah, that's all I've edited so far. And yeah, I will make another one of these videos once we've added in the other bit, because that bit has actually got speech in, which this section hasn't. So I'll have to think about the audio for that, which I think I may either film on the mic. I may either record the audio on the microphone I'm filming now, because this is quite good quality. Because we're struggling with mics from school because they don't seem to fit our cameras, or it might just be the case of using the diegetic sound because it's filmed indoors. It probably will work fine because there's not going to be any outdoor sounds. So we will see. And yes, that is it for the editing for now. Right, so I've actually forgotten to speak about the transitions used, which really the reason why I forgot is because I think there's that one there, and that is it for now. Plainly because when you watch films, you don't seem to see many transitions and stuff. The only one I've used here is a fade up, just to kind of break the opening kind of credits. Not really, I don't know what you'd call them, to the actual film. But otherwise, I haven't put any in just because I think it personally it would break the verisimilitude of the film. Like, I suppose you could call, oh, that is not what I wanted to do. Um, you could, I could have put one in. Let me find it here, or you could argue this is just a fade to black, or just a cut to black. Well, it is a cut to black. I suppose you could say this is a transition, but otherwise it really does break the verisimilitude. You could, I think, of maybe, or I could think about putting in some that maybe do break the verisimilitude, because like films at that time like Star Wars brought in those really cliched filter not filters transitions, which is something I could use to show the time period, but I'm not sure it would work for a horror because it's something you really want to have a sense of realism. So that's something I'm going to think about, and maybe when I put it all together later, that might be added in, but we will see.